Greetings, my friends. Please consider supporting me in my war to save pop culture by subscribing to my channel and possibly even becoming a channel member for exclusive videos, access to Doomcock emojis, and more. And if you like this video in particular, please consider using the new Super Thanks feature and putting a tip in the tip jar located next to the like buttons down at the bottom of the video. Thank you for watching, and now, on to the video. My friends, my blood is boiling. I literally feel sick to my stomach as I contemplate the latest attempts by woke cultural assassins to undermine our civilization and mutilate our heritage. This is going to be a hard video to make because the topic is so revolting that even I, a supervillain, am repelled by these loathsome actions. And yet I sound the alarm and tell you right now that there's a glimmer of hope I will reveal at the end of this video, but even with that glimmer of hope, I am outraged. My friends, the woke assault on Western civilization has spread now from the realm of pop culture to the shelves of our libraries as, no longer content with corrupting our films and TV shows, sensitivity fascists are now editing classic books to make them more woke. Just like the Ministry of Truth in the prophetic book 1984, these cultural assassins have begun the process of replacing books they deem problematic with censored, politically correct versions, preventing you and our kids from enjoying the authentic books presented as the author intended. Now, this is nothing new, merely an escalation of what many of us on YouTube have been warning about for years. These cultural vandals started with material that the intelligentsia regard as disposable and lowbrow. Comics, games, Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Thundercats, He-Man. These elites didn't much notice or care about these acts of cultural vandalism, even though we certainly did, and have been sounding the alarm at the top of our lungs for years now. But the woke agenda, which is nothing less than the repudiation and dismantling of Western culture, has spread into the realm of Fahrenheit 451 and 1984, and these reprehensible locusts, these cultural lampreys, are preying on these books, rewriting them to make them more woke. You see, pop culture has been the canary in the coal mine. Works like Star Trek and Star Wars are not regarded by the larger population as artwork on a par with great literature, which means they were viewed by the elites as populist swill, lowbrow nonsense. Who cares what happens to that pop culture trash? It's disposable garbage for the mouth breathers. I disagree, of course. To me, cinema is art. Indeed, popular cinema like Star Wars, Star Trek, The Matrix, Indiana Jones, these epic tales of heroism and good old-fashioned morality are the equivalent of our modern myths, and it is through these vessels that we hand down our values from generation to generation. It's one of the many ways we secure a continuity of our culture to keep it strong over the years. Lessons about who we are as a country, as a people, handed down from father to son, mother to daughter, and that's why the woke scum have attacked our pop culture with such viciousness, because they know pop culture is a pillar of our civilization, which is under attack on all fronts. But now, see, now this revolting wokeness has bled over into rewriting books, and suddenly the larger world is finally taking notice. Articles are being written, the controversy is huge and getting bigger, and it's possible that these cultural vandals have finally overreached themselves. It's possible this might be the straw that finally breaks the camel's back and wakes the normies up to what we've been talking about all this time. But in the meantime, the rage and disgust I feel is almost unbearable as I contemplate what is being done to James Bond and the works of Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was a very naughty children's author who was unafraid of telling kids scary tales where disturbing and weird things happen. carrying on in the fine tradition of the macabre Brothers Grimm fairy tales, filled with morbid incidents that would scare kids into being good, or at least into thinking about being good. Well, apparently, Dahl was a little too naughty for the pearl-clutching puerile Puritans who have set themselves up as arbiters of taste and as the judge, jury, and executioner of Western culture. As The Guardian put it in their excellent article, quote, "One of Roald Dahl's best-known characters was the enormous crocodile, a horrid, greedy, grumptious brute who wants to eat something juicy and delicious." Now, a conversation the author had 40 years ago has come to light, revealing that he was so appalled by the idea that publishers might one day censor his work that he threatened to send the crocodile to gobble them up. The conversation took place in 1982 at Dahl's home in Great Missenden, Buckinghamshire, where he was talking to the artist Francis Bacon. "I've warned my publishers that if they later on so much as change a single comma in one of my books, they will never see another word from me. Never, ever. If that happens, then I'll wish mighty Thor knocks very hard on their heads with his hammer. Or I will send along the enormous crocodile to gobble them up. There must be no changes to an artist's original work when he is dead for any reason whatsoever. I just hope to God that will never happen to any of my writings as I am lying comfortably in my Viking grave." Dahl, who died in 1990, aged 74, was one of the most successful children's authors of all time. But his publisher, Puffin, caused controversy this month for hiring sensitivity readers to rewrite his books with hundreds of revisions so that they can continue to be enjoyed by all today. In the new edition of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Augustus Gloop, a glutton for chocolate, is now just enormous rather than enormously fat. In the Twits, Mrs. Twit is no longer ugly and beastly, just beastly. And in the enormous crocodile, "We eat little boys and girls" has been changed to "We eat little children." Well, God knows it's a terrible, terrible thing to acknowledge that there are two sexes. We wouldn't want to confuse kids with that, would we? Damn, this makes my blood boil. Roald Dahl said it himself. There must be no changes to an artist's original work when he is dead for any reason whatsoever. According to this article, that weekend in 1982, when he was talking to his friend Francis Bacon, he was pounding the table so hard the wine spilled as he added, "You know, it was Marx and Lenin who commenced this political correctness rubbish way back in 1917, and by God, it's creeping into this country." It is indeed, Roald Dahl. It is indeed. It has crept like a contagion into all aspects of our society, but lest you think it's only happening to Roald Dahl, it is also happening with James Bond. These same sensitivity readers are going after James Bond now, these sultans of sensitivity, these butchers of literature. In an article titled "James Bond Books Edited to Remove Racist Comments," The Telegraph writes, quote, "James Bond has been censored, not stirred. A report indicates that Ian Fleming's ribald James Bond books have been rewritten to accommodate 21st century sensitivities, removing a number of racial references ahead of the 70th anniversary this spring. The Sunday Telegraph reported. The books are expected to be republished in April. Fleming's thrillers, from Casino Royale to Octopussy, will be re-released this spring after Ian Fleming Productions, the company that owns the literary rights to Fleming's work, commissioned a review by sensitivity readers," unquote. Once again, the same sensitivity readers that attacked Roald Dahl are now combing through our literature and deciding, on a woke basis, what is fit and unfit for you to read. These filthy leeches, offering their censorship services for money, are now filtering through your books and deciding what they don't want you to read. And get this, folks, the Bond books will be further defaced with a disclaimer, quote, "This book was written at a time when terms and attitudes which might be considered offensive by modern readers were commonplace. a number of updates have been made in this edition while keeping as close as possible to the original text and the period in which it is set, unquote.
As close as possible? Bullshit! As close as possible to the original text would mean the original text. It would mean leaving the fucking book alone. There can be no greater evil than the murder of ideas. This is how civilizations crumble.
And that is precisely their aim, O Skull of Calderon, to topple our civilization, to censor our literature, to degrade our heroes, to weaken our morale and our resolve, our commitment to free speech, and the most fundamental tenets of the Constitution. They started small, and you may believe, well, these aren't huge changes, they're small revisions and omissions. Well, that's how it starts, with small revisions and omissions, until they get bolder and turn the temperature up on the frog in the pot so he won't realize he's boiling until it's too late. That said, I promised you a glimmer of hope at the beginning of this video. It is only a glimmer, but it shows that we still have some power to change things. According to Variety, quote, publisher Puffin UK will release the Roald Dahl Classic Collection, which will have the author's original texts. The Roald Dahl Classic Collection will be available alongside the newly released Puffin Roald Dahl books for young readers, which are designed for children who may be navigating written content independently for the first time, Puffin said. Readers will be free to choose which version of Dahl stories they prefer. Yeah, they can choose between the actual version or the phony version. This is no solution at all, of course, because it's putting censored and adulterated versions of these works out into the world, and people don't pay enough attention. They're too busy. And so the corrupted versions will be thoughtlessly bought for kids, and some kids will grow up with the corrupted versions against the wills of the dead authors, and for part of a generation, kids will grow up with these censored versions. The only bit of optimism I see here is public outcry was still strong enough to force these scum into at least re-releasing the classic versions. It shows we can still have an impact. And I hope that everyone watching this video will spread the word, protest on Twitter and in your own videos, forward this video to all your friends, and alert everyone. They're attacking our culture once again. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha